It's Monica Neubauer
And Mark Neubauer.
on An Open Conversation.
Hey.
We are doing episode 3 of our conversation on Mark's pain journey today.
All right.
And we are going to do episode 4 will be from my side. I'm going to have a friend, Brita Miller. She's going to interview me and we're going to talk about the caregiving side.
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff.
Good stuff. So today we're going to continue on with some helps that Mark has used, things that have been good and helpful for Mark in his pain journey to help him manage it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's start digging in. We kind of have a little.
You should ask your question how you're managing your pain today.
That's probably true. How are you managing your pain today, honey? How are you managing your pain today? What have you done today to manage your pain?
I did yoga this morning.
You did?
Walked the dog. I took anti-inflammatory.
Yep.
And I put on my most comfortable pants that I just got in the world. So I actually ordered a second pair.
Oh, good. Already. They just came yesterday.
Literally, like the whole reason why I got these pants was pain management.
Well, okay. Actually, clothing is the last thing. You just added that at the very end. Let's start talking about.
Well, you asked me what I did today.
Well,
so
right.
That's what I did today.
That's what you did today, and that's good. And we've already talked pretty much about yoga. So
yeah.
and we're going to talk about the dog, but let's start with clothes since that was kind of so fresh on your mind and you bought this new pair of pants. How do clothes come into play with your pain management?
A lot. I mean so any kind of discomfort can add to pain, So if you have a back pain and you're sitting in a uncomfortable chair, you know what that's like, it can be hellish. So starting even with my underwear and my socks.
You do well. And remember, Mark has hyperhidrosis, which causes him to sweat excessively.
Yeah.
And so you've always been attentive to your underclothes, socks and underwear.
Yeah. So only wear wool socks.
Yep.
And I love a new pair of smart wool socks.
Yeah.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Yeah, your smart wool socks. And what other brands have you loved?
Socks wise, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it's the softest.
Well, and then, I mean, not to dwell on it, but the underwear is a big thing too.
Yep.
For men or women, having comfortable undergarments.
Yep.
I mean, if you're annoyed, whether you're laying down or sitting in a chair,
Yep.
it's going to be important that they feel comfortable. They're the right fabric, and they can be expensive though.
Yes.
Getting really good.
They can be. So it's a choice. I mean, but for the socks thing, like I would not eat
to wear the right socks. I know.
Yes.
Well, but you'd rather have, if you're doing laundry regularly, you'd rather have like 5 pairs of awesome of each than 10 or 15 pairs of mediocre.
Oh, no question.
No question. Yeah. Okay. So you pay attention first to socks and underwear. And I will say this for women who are in pain, if they want to wear a bra or some kind of undergarment, I mean, we've been managing this for a long time and there's lots of tanks and things like that, but there are so many new bra companies. If you start talking about it on your phone, you'll get ads for them on Instagram and Facebook really quickly. Yeah.
So just a little insight into me though too is I for some reason I don't like wearing sweatpants all day long or lounge pants.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
I can't do it either. During the pandemic, I have to get dressed.
It's like I don't know, is it a mindset thing or something? Or the other thing too is I will just go to the grocery store on a whim, and then if I don't have my pants on with my wallet in it, I'll get to the grocery store and I won't have my wallet. So I like having like pants. So I just got they're 5-pocket jean style, but as comfortable as any pair of sweatpants I've ever had.
And what's the brand for that?
Duer. D-U-E-R.
Yeah. And you've worn a lot of travel pants, like REI kind of travel pants have been kind of cover both of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
My new standard too is I don't like to buy a pair of pants that I can't do yoga in.
Well, that's fair because you're doing yoga almost every day. So having the pants you can do yoga in.
And sometimes I'll do stretches, in the middle of the day too. So,
you need
it's nice to not have to change because every obstacle that you put in front of you to keep you from doing what you know you need to do will keep you from doing it.
That's true.
And that's true. I mean, that's like a
That's
a
true. That's a
truism.
true. Yeah, truism. Any obstacle, if you can remove the obstacles that prevent you from doing what you want to do,
Yeah.
you will have a smoother path to
Yeah.
get there.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, so close. And
Yeah.
even your one pair of lounge pants is even a woven kind of a special pair. You don't have like lots of really sloppy pants. They're even still kind of neat. All right. So anything else with shirts and jackets? You wear hats a lot.
Yeah, I like to have natural fabrics if I can,
Yep.
cotton, especially on my upper body or wool.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
So
So pay attention to that. I mean, if your clothes are making you uncomfortable, change.
Yep.
And what's good for living your whole life, not just your bed life or your lounge life, or
Right.
what contributes to a better sense of well-being in your whole
Yep.
in your whole body.
Yeah.
All right, so that's clothes. Well, let's go since we started at the bottom of our list.
Did you want to go?
Yeah, we'll go.
Keep going up
from
that.
there.
Keep going the same direction.
Yeah, the we were talking also about pets and plants as options, and how to having pets and plants.
Yeah.
Let's start with the plants, and then because we could talk for a while about the animals.
Well, plants are part of also my artistic outlook.
Yes.
So I like, as I've kind of embraced
Being an artist.
evolutionary theory.
Oh.
That's what I was going to say.
Did you
But
know that?
honestly, it ties in. There's like a bridge. Like a lot of the reason for doing art is tied into that. So
Okay, so you've been embracing evolutionary theory. Okay, so art goes into that. All right.
so
You're going to find out when we talk about our spiritual journey more about that part.
yeah, and this is like on the homepage of my website is that, you know, if humans have evolved over, you know, 30,000 years or whatever,
Yeah.
that and if you look at that in the time span, you know, we've only been living indoors for a very brief period of time, and
Right.
and a lot of people are living like their whole lives indoors. But,
Yes.
so if we have my personal working theory is
Yeah.
that if we have evolved living outdoors and among trees and among plants, then why not try to replicate that as much inside your house as well? So
Well, and it's been proven that when we get in nature, we breathe better, we relax better. There's good mindset that comes with having things growing in your house.
right, and I got a lot of plants. So like when I go into a house that has no plants,
I feel it. Yeah.
it feels weird. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is so sterile. Like,
Yeah, we have lots of plants and we have large plants.
Yep.
Mark takes good care of them. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that Mark does to take care of us and our house. And one of the things he does is water the plants. If it was just me, now I would still have to have the plants, but I'd have to make a Google Calendar note to water them.
well, I had also read somewhere else in another pain management blog about caring for plants. And actually, this one lady, the lady that wrote the blog, she literally like bought a plant a week. So her entire house is like a jungle inside her apartment. But anyway, there's something to caring for something else other than yourself. You know, you're constantly trying to get out of your own head. That's part of the mental game.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that caring for things outside yourself, because there's kind of levels with that and different emotions with that. So caring, I'm going to make a note of that so make sure. So the plants, I want to also say, I was at an event, you know, being in the real estate industry, I go to a lot of conferences, and one of the exhibits that was set up
far away from each other.
far away.
We don't like each other.
Like we don't like each other. Oh, right. So I was at this event with the National Association of Realtors, and they had it set up to understand how nature and green plants and things affect our health. And remember that green plants are the oxygen. They take in the CO2 that we breathe out, and they give us oxygen back. So they also create better air in your house as well.
Right. Well, and that's part of that. One of the studies came from researching another lady that I heard on Hidden Brain with Shankar Vedantam. and I think her name is Ming Kuo.
No, no.
But she did a lot of research on, the effects of being outdoors and being among, staying in tree canopies and just the effects on health, the effects on community.
Yep.
So she's been a real advocate to even planting trees in lower income neighborhoods where crime is high.
To help create a sense of peacefulness. It also creates a sense of longevity.
Well, that's the thing that, when in the study is like, how much cheaper is it to plant trees than to add police?
Seriously. Seriously. Okay, so plants in the house. Plants are good for everybody, not just on a pain journey, but they're good for all of us, and we believe that. And so I appreciate you taking care of our plants. He has them indoors and outdoors. We have a potted garden. Our deck is a little bit off the yard, so we have a potted garden on our deck.
Yeah.
All right. So plants, you're caring for something outside yourself. Then also,
and you don't have to buy plants either, by the way. You can just get hand-me-downs from people.
Right. Get cuttings and then put them in water and put them in dirt. Yeah. Right. And you can compost your own dirt if you want to do that too.
Play the long game.
Yeah, we have that. Okay. The next thing, speaking of caring for, let's talk about that big picture, because that's really what we're in and what we want to talk about more in this episode. We're talking about how Mark cares for me. We're going to talk about pets and animals and plants. And all of these things are things that gets Mark out of his head and gives him purpose beyond his own pain.
Yes.
Because when you have pain, and some people I know really have crippling pain, so everybody has to figure out where they are in their pain journey. But if you can care for something outside of yourself, that gives you hope, gives you purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we talked about caring for plants, which is the minimal. I mean, all that requires is a little pruning and some water once a week. That's a minimal thing. So really everybody can do that.
Well, you get to know your plants kind of on a personal level.
Yeah.
Like, some plants like more water than others.
Yeah.
And some plants like to dry out in between waterings, so it's
well, some people do like to talk to their plants. I mean, yeah. All right. So let's talk about animals then, having animals in the house.
Okay. Let's start with this.
Okay.
Before we got a dog.
Before we got a dog.
We could have written a book on why to not get a dog.
That's so true. We had cats growing up when our kids were small. We had 2 cats and we traveled a lot so we could just leave easily and, have somebody come and watch. They were indoor, outdoor cats. They were easy.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we could have written the book on why not to have a dog.
Well, cost and travel and, all of these things.
They need exercise.
And if you have to rent a place, it can be that much.
Hard to rent a house, hard to rent a place to stay. If you want to travel with the dog, it costs more to travel with the dog.
But that said.
Yeah, all of that.
I think it was, it would have been Charlie's 6.
He's 5. So it was 2016, Thanksgiving of 2016.
Yeah.
I was going to tell this story in my caregiver journey.
Oh, well, spoiler alert then.
Spoiler alert. Well, let's go ahead and we'll talk about it.
Because I can see.
That was okay. So we were thinking about first of all, let's talk about the importance of a pet. We did so much research about having a dog because I was traveling a lot for business. And at that particular time, Mark was in a higher level of pain than he is today.
Yeah.
So I was leaving him alone a lot. He didn't have much purpose. He was here. Talk about how you were feeling. You tell him how you were feeling.
Well, just the thing with an animal is they become another personality in the room. Like you don't really feel alone when you're with a dog. Like,
right. And you were feeling alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so.
That's what I want to say. How are you feeling? Why were you even considering a dog after we could write the book on?
Well, that was also when I started really kind of understanding how important distraction and getting your mind, getting your focus and your attention on things other than yourself, your body, your pain, just focus on anything else is super helpful. So that was
yeah. So we did all this research and everybody was saying how dogs are good for your health and they,
lower blood pressure.
Yeah. And Mark didn't want to be the only one to have to get a dog. So he thought the dog would also be good for me, which I think has been true.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, but that's also something that was from the pastor lady who's a Enneagram 8 in
Yeah.
Denver.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
All Sinners and Saints Church. Yeah.
that lady. She talks about just having
Small children and
petting
animals
petting
will make
puppies,
you
how
be
much
calm.
how
Yeah.
much when that anger cup gets a little full or emotion cup gets a little full.
Yeah.
It's a grounding method.
It's a grounding. I'm telling you, dogs, cats will do this too, I think, but dogs, I feel, having had both, do this more. When you pet an animal, especially one that you love, if you're stressed or anxious and feeling tense, you pet the animal, they're almost like a lightning rod.
Yeah.
They take my stress. It's almost like they thrive on it or something. They take my stress, my anxiety, they take it on themselves, and I take on their calm nature. It's really tremendous.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of studies.
So many things. Yeah. So we were considering this. Mark was still afraid of getting a dog. What were you afraid of when we were? Because remember, he was in a high pain space at this point. And I kept saying to him, you have to make the decision to get the dog.
Yeah.
Because he was going to have to be the one to care for the dog. I travel a lot. He had to say, yes, we're getting the dog.
Right. So, just something simple as, dogs need walks. You need to walk them. It's dependent on when we were considering getting a golden doodle, that's when we ended up getting sort of poodle mutt. And, just the thought of if you have a high pain day,
can you walk the dog?
yeah. Do you even want to walk a dog?
No, you don't want to walk the dog.
Yeah.
But what happens when you walk the dog?
You always feel better.
There you go.
Yeah.
He does.
You loosen up because especially if, arthritis is a lot of your pain journey.
So you were afraid that you wouldn't want to take care of this dog every day.
Right. And then just kind of the idea of, what do I do with the dog when we travel? And thank God for Jacques, our friend Jacques, who loves us by caring for our dog.
Yes, we do have a good friend who takes our dog. But part of the reason that Jacques is willing and glad to take Charlie is because Charlie is well behaved. Anyway, he's single and he enjoys having other people's dogs as companions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he keeps our dog. He's got like 4 or 5 dogs that he keeps. But I do want to say the fact that Charlie is well behaved, because Charlie is the biggest dog that he. Okay, we digress. So here's the deal. So Mark was in all this pain and I was traveling. I kept saying, do you want the dog? And he was no, pushing back. He didn't want the dog. And I could tell his need for a companion was growing, but I was determined to let him make his own decision. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to talk about some more in the caregivers section is about the person who's in pain when they're in pain, it's very difficult for them to make any decision of substance. And so what happened was he was in this pain. I could see it was coming. I could see his need was growing. So I fully dug in and researched the pet breeds, because with Mark's hands sweating and with him doing art, having a dog that was a big shedder was not going to be an option. So we knew we needed a doodle. Yeah. But if you haven't researched doodles lately, not only are they expensive, you often have to wait months for them. The breeders sell them while they're in the womb even, or, as soon as they're born. So so I did the work and a golden doodle, labradoodle. Mark wanted a medium to large size dog. Did the research.
And you bought them off a clearance rack.
I bought him off a clearance rack. I did. We bought Charlie on clearance.
See?
So finally Mark says, yes, I'm ready. Well, when I get the go-ahead, I'm like a research fiend. And I already knew it was coming, so I'd already been researching. And so we knew we wanted a golden doodle. I literally went on Craigslist, and the dog was there on clearance. Found one.
And then I had panic attacks for several days.
Yes, but we did call the lady, and we went and picked him up the next day. Tell him about your drive home with Charlie in your lap.
I drove home with Charlie in my lap. I don't know what part.
What did you feel? No, how you were all nervous. He was so cute, but how were you feeling?
I was, taking on the responsibility. It's like deciding to have children almost, it's just a lot.
It is a lot to consider, a lot of work. Well,
especially when you don't have one, and then you have one. Now I'm like, I probably will never live without a dog.
Right now, yeah. Right. So we have loved Charlie. We have paid attention to training him. We did mostly train him, and I will say the single best. This is my favorite tip for people getting dogs as a puppy. We think the single best thing that we did with Charlie was, as a puppy, we were having some social engagements. Back before the pandemic, we would have regular events at our home, and Mark would tether Charlie to his waist. We use a leash system where we put a strap around our waist.
Yeah.
And we would do that from the time he was a puppy. So even when he was in the house, if Mark was walking around the house and he didn't want the dog everywhere, he literally tethered the dog to him on a short leash. So Charlie is your buddy.
Yeah, well, that was a tip I got from the monks who raised the German shepherds.
Yeah, we'll have to find that book and put it in the show notes. I have it still. New Skeet, yeah.
Something.
Anyway, it's still on our bookshelf. Yeah, so that's something, and that was probably the single best thing we did. But he's fairly obedient. He still is a little bit challenged when it comes to rabbits and squirrels and
cats,
which there's one in our house now too.
Yeah.
Our daughter just came back and is living with us now, and she brought her cat with her. So we're trying to get the two of them together, and her cat has been a great companion for her. So the animals, you've seen it. You've seen the evidence all during the pandemic. Everybody got animals. They were at home more, and they loved having the companionship. So we don't need to convince people of that. All right. We'll carry on a little bit more depth on that story on the caregiver, but the dog has been huge.
Yeah.
Huge for both of us.
Big help.
He's been great. All right. So the next thing, so we talked about your clothes and plants and pets. Now, caring for things, we're still under that theme of clothes isn't in that, but you're caring for plants, you're caring for pets, and you care for me.
Yep.
I want to talk about that, but before you talk about me, because I think a lot of pain patients, it's not going to be that difficult to start with caring for plants and even caring for pets, because they're not going to give you pushback. There's not that emotional connection. There aren't those triggers and fears of, will they like me? Am I being too much of this, or am I being a burden?
Yeah.
So those are easy transitions. But caring for things, I want you to share some of your journey, how you were working, and a lot of this is going to come into a later journey. Let's start with, you were working, then of course we had the downturn, which challenged both our businesses. And as we came back into, financial health in the economy and in our work, your pain started growing. And so you had to shift things to where ultimately then you had your vision issue, and working for money became not really a thing.
Right.
So talk about that journey in a short form of how you transitioned from being a wage earner to, gosh, I can't be dependable at work. I mean, that's really all it was. You still do things, but you can't be dependable. You couldn't be a driver because of your vision. You couldn't do your handyman work because it would affect your back. So what were you feeling when you transitioned into, where's my purpose?
Well, I mean, the really came to head when I tore my retinas. So that's really when it was like, okay, now this is I knew it was a big shift. I knew it was a life-changing moment where things were going to be different, and so on one hand, it's much different when something is taken away from you through an accident, like my eyes,
because that's drastic.
It's drastic, and so you're forced to make changes. You're forced to, do things differently. With the pain journey, I mean, I'm just gonna have to get real. When your pain gets to a level when you consider taking your own life, when it gets that dark, then coming out of that, you realize that my primary job is taking care of this body.
Yes.
Like, because if the pain levels get so bad again that they're like that, then there is no life.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
If you, whatever level of engagement in the house, in your relationship with me, with your family, whatever engagement you can do is completely contingent on you feeling good enough to engage at all.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you, so all these things we've been talking about, you focused on.
Well, so once you realize that your body becomes your primary job
Job.
description,
Yeah, totally.
like so the reason why that's important too is because then you shift your uh, you don't feel bad about taking the time to do yoga
Or take the dog for a walk.
or even resting in the afternoon when
Right.
you need to, because if you don't, it just will end badly.
Well, when I talk to people about this, they, one of my girlfriends, she had back surgery, and in her readjustment, she was feeling better, but she had to go to the gym and exercise, which is,
Yeah.
you're not at the gym, but for her, I'm going to use her as an example because we always talk about you, but it was like, I can go and do 7 or 8 hours worth of work if I first spend the hour at the gym strengthening my back.
Yeah.
But if I don't spend the hour at the gym strengthening my back, I don't get the 7 or 8 hours of work. I
Right.
get maybe 3 or 4
Exactly.
hours of work, and then I pass
Exactly
out
right.
in the afternoon.
Exactly right.
So you buy yourself
Right.
the rest of your day.
Right. Right. I want to throw in there too that the darkest moments where just life did not feel worth living, that could also have been triggered by a bad reaction to a medication.
Yeah.
Which you have to be aware of. Like when you're taking medication, and if you dive into a deep depression, it's your brain doesn't go automatically to, oh, it must have been the medication that I took. But I literally, it was so stark and so real that I did some research, just like the day after, and I was like, oh, wow,
This medicine has that as a side effect.
this is a potential rare but potential side effect.
Yeah. So that's something, if you are feeling suicidal, certainly get help, but research your medicines. I mean, that's completely true, because some of them are not agreeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
brains are complicated.
Brains are complicated. And the other thing, I'm not, gratefully, I'm not the most experienced person with depression. But I also watch people and their journeys and things like that. And all the things that we're talking about are also helpful for people with depression. And I've watched some of, in particular, some of the young people that I know who've struggled with anxiety and depression. They've gotten animals. Yeah. They've worked through some of these steps and enjoyed some of the things that we're talking about also. So this can help with mental struggles as well as the physical struggles, because it gets you out of your head.
Right.
And a lot of people who are in depression, sometimes it's like, I'm going to get up out of bed. I'm going to go take a shower. Yeah. I'm going to make myself something to eat. It's, again, what's the minimum you need to do to take care of yourself to gain even some footage, whatever you can gain.
Yeah.
Your darkest phase was gratefully not too long, and you haven't had too many of those, but you realized, and you gave yourself permission, which is huge, to take the time to exercise and rest in the afternoon. And that didn't happen automatically. Right. And I think of some of the the people who have pain journeys who are in the Facebook groups that I'm in, and I watch their journey, and I certainly can't tell them what to do. I don't have their pain. Yeah. But I watch some of them are in bed, just have such great pain. They're in bed all the time. And I wonder, when I read that, I say, gosh, can you even just, take a few walks around your house? Are you making yourself food? What movement would be helpful for you? Yeah. And, that was also really huge with us getting with a different doctor who really pushed Mark into the yoga and things like that. So anyway, that harkens back to what we've been talking about. So you learn to care for yourself. Yeah. And give yourself permission to care for yourself in positive ways. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to eat well. Okay. So you also you are a servant-hearted person. You're just a kind, helpful person. And Mark also likes work. There, So when you were going through all of this, I know what you're thinking. Yeah. We don't need to go there. Mark's whole family has a really strong work ethic. Both of us have the ability to work way more than we probably should. So Mark not being able to work was really hard on you, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You want to elaborate?
Well, there's only so much Netflix you can watch till
I
you get
know,
sick
right?
of
Yeah.
it. So,
Yeah. So trying to find some purpose.
right.
Well, and they say that's true for elderly people too, if you're not in great health, if you can find some purpose,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah. So you found your purpose then in refocusing on helping me and taking care of the house.
Right.
And so what did that kind of look like for you as you made that transition to focusing on the smaller world?
Well, recognizing that you're the primary breadwinner and
Are you talking about me
you,
or
you
yeah,
yeah,
you're starting by recognizing that now
yeah,
I'm the primary bread earner.
yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just going to take everything out of her life so that she can just focus on what she needs to focus on. So
Which the things to focus on. So for me, well, of course, we're both self-employed, focusing on work. But the other thing is, once my work is done, I want to focus on Mark.
yeah,
And if I have to, after work, go and do all the laundry and do all the cleanup and everything, so we do hire somebody to clean our house. But he does those things so that in the evening, then I can either rest or I can spend time in conversation with you,
yeah,
which that fuels our back to the open conversation. He creates the space for me to have the space to
yeah,
have the relationship. And that's part of why our relationship has been good through all this and we've had the time to have conversation is because he does those tasks
yeah.
at home. And the one he's really most faithful with. I mean, you usually do things in the morning. He does his hobbies or things he needs to do mostly in the morning. And then you cook dinner.
Yeah.
And that is so, you all know having somebody cook dinner is huge. And what about when you just can't cook dinner, when it's been a really bad day or what happened?
I'll just say, where are we ordering from?
Yeah. You got that DoorDash coupon, honey? Where?
Exactly.
What's our favorite 3 restaurants? Which one are we getting from tonight?
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah. So we do have those backup mechanisms of our favorite restaurants and a few things that we kind of are easy meals or things that I can cook, and I don't cook much.
Really? Things that you cook?
Think, you mean you cook something besides breakfast and sandwiches?
Yeah.
Not much. I'd rather go buy Thai food or Vietnamese food.
Yeah.
And so would you rather I go buy those?
Yeah, I would too. Otherwise, I get too much kitchen to clean up after you're done.
I do make a mess. I like to fry things. All right. Okay. Do you want to have any clothing clothing thoughts? Closing thoughts about clothing? No.
Actually, one popped into my head was we've talked about yoga a lot, and I know that there's hot debates in a lot of some charismatic and evangelical Christian communities about can Christians do yoga and that kind of stuff,
right?
And there's several things I could say about that. I mean, you could do a whole
let's not go too deep into it, but
just that if you're nervous about that at all, just bring Jesus into your yoga practice. I mean, just
create, right? Yoga does not need to follow you can follow yoga into a certain guided spiritual experience, yes, but you can create your own spiritual experience in yoga, right, whatever your beliefs are.
Just,
meditative. It becomes
for yourself.
Yeah, it becomes a meditative opportunity for you. Yeah. And I've even done some yoga. I don't do a lot of it, but I do some and it's good for me too.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So closing this door on caring for things. Any closing thoughts on caring for yourself, for me, for the plants, for the dog, the purpose that's given you?
No, I think transitioning from all that though into community and people is logical.
Okay, go ahead. Talk about community and people.
Well, so I noticed pretty early on in the pain journey, just being around people can lower whatever pain you're experiencing. If you're a level 8 pain, just being around people can drop.
I don't know. If you're a level 8, you're like in bed.
Yeah. Well, for me, that's true.
No.
For me,
if you're level 6, maybe it can drop it down.
Right.
There is a place where it gets
there is
too
a tipping
much
point,
and you don't want to be around anybody. You just need to.
I don't even want to be around you sometimes. I mean, because I feel like I'm like this dark life-sucking aura around me when I'm in that much pain, and I just don't want to be around people at all. So,
Well, let's talk briefly about that because I know people certainly whose pain severity is more ongoing and more severe. They
right,
do feel like they're a dark cloud
right,
all the time. And sometimes they react by just going into themselves, and sometimes they react by being angry or reactionary and lashing out, maybe some depending on personality types. But
right.
that's a real thing. And we'll talk about that on the caregiver side of how do we encourage our pain patients, to it's okay to be who you need to be and who you are as long as you're still engaging in life when you can. If Mark
Yeah,
has a bad week and he's not having great conversation, well, I just go do some more retail therapy.
yeah.
And retail therapy can be the
Uh,
grocery store.
no,
Mark doesn't like me to do retail therapy at the grocery store,
let's
but
let's bring it back to the main point, which is being around people is very helpful, and a great tool for pain management.
what does that even
The
go into
community.
like shopping when you like leave the house to go to the grocery store or go to Home Depot?
Um, I would say yes, simply because that's also it's serving the same purpose, and that's distraction and focus.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's communicating with people. It's just being face to face with somebody, again, getting out of your own space and experiencing others'
but
experiences.
having conversation with people, being with friends,
Right.
and talking about life, those kinds of things, they're the most helpful for me. But that's also me. So some people might be like, enjoy a board game with a friend or something like that. That's
Right.
a real good
Well, right.
mental
We've
shift.
cultivated conversation, so that's what you like to
Yeah.
have. But right, just being with somebody, playing a game,
Yeah.
you know, even having company and watching a movie with you, just having another person there
Yeah.
can be important.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a big movie person, so that's why we could develop the conversation because that's
Yeah.
what we like to do together. Now, and you're an introvert, so you're still calling out, yes, I need to be with people. I need to be face to face with people.
Right. So that's literally just observation on my behalf. Like I recognized that, I can drop my pain down just by being with people, even though I maybe don't even want to be with people.
Right.
So
We all
I
need,
use
you're
people
using people.
to keep my pain level down. I'm a user. That's what I do.
Yeah, you're a user. You always bring your good conversation and your laughter and good things into the community as well. So we've noticed this too during the pandemic. Of course, we've missed our friends, and I mean, I went out yesterday and had all these great conversations with my friends who I ran into shopping and at events and things, and it was really good. So,
Yeah.
like many of you, we're still moving back into that.
Yeah.
Um, all right, I had a thought. Community. Oh, I know. You are a learner. So I wanted to talk about this as well, because with the importance of community and in the importance of relationship with us together, one of the things that's such a blessing for me is you are learning. You're always learning. You're listening to podcasts. You watch a lot of movies and TV, but you also watch documentaries. And so you're learning things that can help you bring good conversation into our relationship and with your friends, not just with me,
Yeah.
but also with your friends.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that some?
Well, it's just about engaging the brain. Again, it's about keep getting out of yourself, and you know, at some point, resting. You want to put some kind of positive spin on the rest.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, totally. And I remember when my mom was in, not in good health,
Yeah.
and she was in her pain journey. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't talk about it quite in the same terms at that time, but my mother was legally blind, and so she couldn't read books, but she had from the Library of the Blind and Dyslexic, she had recordings. And so my mom would always enjoy listening to books, and that was what she did to enjoy passing the time. She'd watch TV sometimes as well too, but when she was laying down or resting, she was still entertaining herself or learning something with what she was reading,
Yeah.
even when she was resting as much as she could.
Well, interestingly though,
Interestingly enough.
so one of my favorite types of books to read are on brain structure, cognitive dissonance theory, and neuroscience. So, but one of the things you learn when you learn about brain brain health is constantly learning, even into your, as long as you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
You keep your brain healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you keep yourself able to engage with other people and what they're going through and what they're thinking about.
And also gathering new information, learning new information, and here's the kicker: changing your mind on things. Learning how to change your mind.
That's another episode.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, without leaving that completely, learning how to be open to new things.
Yes.
And not be stuck in a rut.
Right. Don't just keep gathering stuff to fuel your echo chamber of belief systems that you're in.
Yeah. Add some new thoughts. All right. I believe that we have covered the things that we kind of had planned to help. I want to say thank you to you for making the adjustment of, I can't do this, but I can do this in our home.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're still a team.
Yeah.
We're running our house together. We're making decisions together. Mostly we're doing a lot of things together, and we're still a great team.
And that
the roles may have changed a little bit, but we're a great team.
And we've always used that language for our whole marriage.
Yeah.
Is team. Not this.
Well, you're going to find out we grew up in the evangelical culture that wants to talk about
the whole headship issues.
Yeah, there's lots of that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But we're a team, and what's the best way for our team to take care of our family?
Right.
Yep. So that's what we've done.
If your roles change, play a new role.
Play a new role.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I guess that's about it.
All right. Thanks very much. See you later. I have a clicker here somewhere.